Hi, I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thanks so much for joining me today at Courageous Journeys. Today I'm coming to you from New York City, where we are spending a month in between stops, I guess. But I'm glad to join you today. I've been a little remiss in doing my videos, and I apologize for that. But today I'm going to talk about what I see as really the first step in healing. And I'm going to talk about this because one of the probably most common questions that I get from people has to do with, okay, how do you heal? How do I do that? In whatever context that may be, whether I'm talking about validating or I'm talking about letting go of coping mechanisms or whatever I might be talking about, how do I do that is probably the biggest question. And it makes sense because we don't know how to do that. And part of the reason that we don't know how to do that is because we think that there should be a simple answer, and there's not. So when it comes to healing, how do you do it? I do really wish that I could give you a step-by-step checklist on what you need to do in order to heal. And once you've done it, you can check it off and you move on to the next step. That's not how healing works. Healing really is a process that requires a decent amount of time, because part of what happens in that process is you learn, you put into practice what you learn, you have experiences that allow you to continue to put into practice what you learn, and over time you learn something new. Ultimately, healing abuse is about letting go of the false belief of being unworthy and learning to see yourself and believe in yourself for who you truly are. And that is somebody who is worthy, who deserves the things in life that you think everybody else deserves but you. It's really about letting go of feeling that you're unworthy, believing that you're unworthy, and being able to see yourself for who you truly are. Now that sounds simple. Okay, how do I do that? But as I said, it's kind of a complicated process. So I thought I would talk about what are the steps necessary, and in particular for today, what is really the first thing that is necessary in order to be able to heal? And you might get a different answer from somebody else, but when I really think about what needs to happen in order to truly heal from sexual abuse, the first thing really is acknowledging that you were abused. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean that you can say, I was sexually abused. Hi, my name is Peggy and I'm a sexual abuse survivor. It doesn't mean that, because the truth is, for many, many, many survivors, you can acknowledge verbally that you were abused. You can even sometimes go into great detail about your abuse. So it's not just about verbally acknowledging it, cognitively acknowledging it. It's about really accepting that you were abused. I remember years and years ago when I was in therapy, and I was talking about, I think, one of my abusive experiences, and I remember her response was, you sounded like a newscaster reading a story that you were really kind of detached from. And I had shared parts of my story before. I had shared that piece of my story before. But I thought, yeah, because it doesn't bother me. And I realized through that I've always acknowledged that I was abused, but I didn't allow myself to really accept what that meant. And much of that was a coping mechanism. In one of the other videos that I did, I talked about denial as a coping mechanism, and how denial is sometimes about completely not remembering that it happened, or flat out kind of lying about it happening. That does happen, but more often than not, denial is used as a coping mechanism, as a way to minimize what you did experience so that it doesn't feel bad. So, in order to heal, you need to let go of the denying. You need to let go of the minimizing what happened to you and fully accept that you were abused. It's not an easy thing to do. It can be quite painful because you've used these coping mechanisms for so long to protect yourself. So accepting that it happened and that it's had an impact on you is really important. Being able to say, I was abused by whomever the abuser is, or maybe you even had more than one. I was abused. It hurt. I was so disappointed. I felt so betrayed. I was scared. Whatever the feelings are that go along with that are important to acknowledge, honor, and validate. You hear me talk about that all the time, but that really is probably like the crux of what is required in healing. No matter what aspect you're talking about when it comes to healing abuse, acknowledging, honoring, and validating that is the biggest piece, I think, because when you are a child and you've gone through it, all of your coping mechanisms do the complete opposite of that in order to protect you, and they serve a purpose. They serve a very valuable purpose at the time. Unfortunately, as you get older and you grow into being an adult, they only serve to keep you stuck there. So acknowledging that you're abused, really acknowledging that you're abused, allowing yourself to feel, to acknowledge and validate the pain that goes along with that, being able to accept it. And when I say accept, I don't mean just, okay, so it happened, and like you have to come to peace with it, or you have to forgive. Not at all what I'm referring to. When I say accept, I mean just really allow yourself to feel what that feels like, to honor what that feels like. That child within you, and I guarantee you that child is still within you, that child within you, that little girl, that little boy within, deserves your acknowledgement. That little person within you needs you to understand how painful that was. And that is an important part of healing. It doesn't mean you need to sit in that feeling. It's just acknowledging it, saying, yeah, that was painful, and maybe there will be some tears, maybe there will be some anger, maybe there will be some fear. But you don't have to stay stuck there. In fact, often, once you honor and validate those feelings, they tend to go away because that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for you to validate that. They're waiting for you to say it's okay that you feel that. So, I think I covered all of that in terms of the first step in being able to really work on healing. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to hear what that part has been like for you, if you've been able to do that. Sometimes people do that, start to do that, and then decide to go to therapy. That's what kind of initiates going to therapy. But sometimes people aren't able to do that until they've been in therapy for a while. So it doesn't really matter where you're at on that spectrum. Just knowing that that part needs to happen is what's important. So I'd love to hear what your experience with that has been. Feel free to share. You can comment here on YouTube. You can comment on my blog. Either way, I'm happy to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what your experience is. I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much for joining me.